Yeah, good afternoon from Idaho. Today I'm going to show you how I sanitize my water system before I take a trip. The Alpine's been sitting here with the water tanks empty and the low point drains drained and the water heater has been drained. And that was on the 5th of June. So here we are, the 9th of September. So we got July, August, September. That's 90 days it's been sitting here. There's still some residual water in those PEX lines. And so I'm going to want to purge that water out using fresh city water. And then I'm going to induce a gallon, or excuse me, not a gallon, a cup, maybe a cup and a half of just plain old bleach. Any bleach will do. The cheaper the better. And I like to use the Great Value from Walmart. Walmart does have some useful purposes in life. My Alpine is an older unit, so my water panel is going to look different than a lot of the other folks's, but you can see we have the 3-position brass valve instead of the old valve. I leave a short hose permanently connected, and you can see the short hose. It's 6 feet long, and you can see the nice elbow that I have. And it's not one of those cheap elbows from Camco. It's a good flow through elbow, and it's open all the way, even in the bend radius, so you're getting good volume and good pressure. And during sanitation, I'm not going to have the water filters hooked up because I don't want to induce chlorine into this carbon filter that's right here. This is my sediment filter. You can see it's very clean. I just put that brand new one in May before our first trip, and then I drained this water filter out and blew it out with air, so it's dry. There's no water in there, so I'm not going to have any mold or funky water that's laying inside that filter when we get to our destination next Thursday. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn the city water on here at the house, and I'm going to let the hose run for 2 or 3 minutes. That way I know I purge out any of the warm water that's in the hose, and there's no stale water in the hose because I used it this morning, but this will ensure that we have good fresh water. Okay, so you can see that I've got the hose is purged, hooked up. We've run the water for a minute or so, and now I'm going to pull this anode plug out, and be advised there's going to be a little water pressure there. And some will say, well, why are you pulling the anode plug out if you're going to... Okay, so now we have everything drained, and if you notice, I'm taking a rag and I'm wiping this down and getting the water that pooled up on here and down on the siding. And a lot of people say, well, why are you bothering with that? Well, if you look at this water heater, it's 9 years old and it looks darn near brand new. And if you take a few minutes and keep this area clean, yours will look brand new too. For those of you that have the on-demand water heater, you also have a drain, and you'll have to take a panel off, or no, you won't. It has a drain port right on the front of it. You'll have to locate that and drain it if you're going to flush and sanitize your water heater and the rest of your water system. Okay, so we've got the anode in. Everything's cleaned up and dried. We're filling the water tank up right now. That's the first thing that's going to fill if you have a water heater like this, the older Suburban type. It's a 12-gallon tank. It's going to fill up before anything else. So we're looking here, make sure we don't have any leaks, and we don't. The anode is good. And since we did open these 2 low point drains, we'll take a look-see under here. And as you can see, we have no drips there. Okay, we're now inside the Alpine, and we're going to open up the kitchen sink slowly, and that's air that's in the PEX lines as well as air that was in the water heater. And what we're going to do is let this water run for a couple of minutes on the hot side until we see nothing but a good flow of steady water coming out. And you can see, if you look at the water, you'll see there's a little bit of foam in it, and that's what we want to get out of the water system. That's old water that's being purged. And we'll move the faucet back over to the hot side, and you can see we still have a little bit of air coming out of the hot water tank. That's normal. If you have an on-demand system, you won't have this, but you know, when you got an older Alpine with a 12-gallon Suburban water heater, that's what you get. Okay, looks like we've got all the air out of the hot water tank. We're on the hot side now. We'll switch back to the cold side. We're getting a good flow, steady stream of cold water. Okay, we're going to do the same thing in the bathroom. And you can see we're getting some air out. When we open the hot water side up, we'll go ahead and open the cold water side up too. And we'll get all that air out of there. And I recommend when you're going to sanitize your water system, before you put the bleach in, which I've not put bleach in yet, I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. But I like to let this run, probably a good minute and a half. Okay, we've drained the water out of all the inside faucets, and as you can see, we've put some water in the freshwater tank. We're going to let that drain out a little bit, make sure it's empty, and then we're going to close this freshwater tank drain. And then we'll go put some bleach in the line and then fill the water tank and push that bleach into the freshwater tank. Okay, so now we fill the measuring cup up and got a good cup of bleach there. We've drained the end of this hose out, and then what I'm going to do now is hold this hose up like so and pour the Clorox into the hose and then connect it back up to the other hose, and then we'll turn the water on and fill the freshwater tank, and the incoming water will push all of this bleach into the freshwater tank. Okay, we've hooked the hose back up, turned the water on, and as you can see, we're filling the tank, and we'll let that run. We'll put about a third of a tank full, and then we'll continue from there. And while we're waiting for the fresh water tank to fill with the bleach and water solution, when I turned the city water on and was bleeding all of the faucets, I discovered that when we turned the cold water faucet on, like so, the water started coming out from underneath here. And as you can see, this is the original OEM cheap faucet for the bathroom. And it served us well for 8.5 years, going on 9. And so we went up to Wally World and found one up there that was about $25. Yeah, we could have drove 50 miles up to Boise and got a nicer one, got a nice Moen or something like that. But you know, we got one trip left this year, maybe 2. And you know, so for $25, the faucet that we put in will do just fine. And the important thing is it doesn't leak. But these can't be repaired. The valve assembly, which you can't see in here, but I'll take it apart later. It's pressed plastic with some O-rings, and once it starts leaking, that's it. The strange thing was with the water turned off, we had no water leak, but when I turned the water on, I could feel a trickle of water coming down the blue PEX line inside the kitchen or inside the bathroom sink area. So that's something you don't want. So we fixed that. So now we've got the freshwater tank about 2/3 full. We've repositioned the valve back to city fixture and dry camping. It's a nice thing with this 3-way valve versus the old 4-way valve on the older Alpines. You don't have to switch between city and dry camping. It's all one. So the city water's turned off. We've got it set to dry camping. So now we'll go inside and turn the water pump on. And we'll take a look-see, and yeah, we got about 2/3 of a tank of water. We don't have a half, so we're where we need to be. We'll turn the water pump on, and now with the water pump on, we'll open up the faucet and let that flow for about a minute or so. We'll switch over to the hot side, and what that's going to do is that'll force some of the existing water. When you saw me initially fill the freshwater tank back up after draining it, it's full of 12 gallons of fresh water, and I want to push just a little bit of that bleach in from the freshwater tank. And so by turning the faucet to the hot water side, the pump is running, and it's pushing the cold water that's in that water heater out and being replenished from the fresh water, which has the bleach mixture in it. And we'll let it run just a little bit more there. Now we'll do the same thing with the bathroom sink. Run that hot water. You can hear the pump just a little bit. Now what I've done is put the shower fixture in the bathroom sink because I don't want to run the water in the shower. The wife has it all nice and clean. So we'll open this one up and we'll let that run a little bit. That's the hot water side. And we had just a little bit of air left in the plumbing. You can probably hear the pump run here in a minute. My pump's very quiet. I hear a lot of people complain about their pumps being noisy, and I've got mine mounted on a piece of rubber, and you can barely hear it above the water. It's probably about the same loudness level. And I can smell the bleach coming out of the shower faucet, so we'll turn that faucet off. And this is the new faucet that I had to put in because when I first turned the water on, getting ready to sanitize this, I always do leak checks up underneath, and I found a drip of water would come down this blue PEX line only when I turned the water faucet on. With the water faucet off, I didn't have any water, but with it on, we had water. So that's not a good thing. So we went up and picked up a new faucet. We didn't spend a lot of money on it. This one's from Walmart, and it'll do the job just fine. Would have liked to put a nice Moen or something in, but I didn't really want to drive a 100-mile round trip up to Boise to get a bathroom faucet when this one would do. And yes, we're looking at the commode, and if you can look and see, you'll see there's a little water down in there. Always keep water in your toilet when you're not using your fifth wheel. That keeps that seal pliable, and also it keeps you from getting any tank odors in case you didn't get a good tank wash. And yes, it's a toilet, but we're going to go ahead and run a little bit of bleach solution down through there. You might be able to hear the water pump run. And then we'll close that and just lightly touch the pedal, put a little bit more water in it. And we're listening for the pump to turn off, which it did, and that's a good thing. Something a lot of people will forget to do. If you don't have a washer and dryer, which we don't, you still have a washer and dryer hookup. And you have two faucets back here, a hot and a cold. I've already hooked a hose up to each one of these faucets and open up the valves and purge the existing water that was left in the lines out, and pushed a little bit of chlorine bleach water solution up through these and out the hose that I had hooked up. If you notice, I also have caps on these. I do that. Gives me a peace of mind in case one of these valves was to leak a little. The caps have rubber washers on them, and so it will prevent me from getting an unwanted leak. And we'll come back down. We've still got plenty of water, and we'll turn the water pump off. And what we're going to do is let this sit as is with this chlorine bleach solution in it for about 24 hours. If you can let your water sit after you put bleach in it, if you can let it sit for 24 hours, you're going to get a much better sanitized job than if you just flush it through and blow it right out. However, that being said, if that's all the time you have, if you can't afford to leave the water system down because you're permanent setup or something like that, then at least, sanitize that water system. And if I was a permanent hookup, I'd probably do it 4 times a year. Even if I had a nice 2 or 3 stage water filter, I would still sanitize the water system. And the best way to do that is the way I've shown you, by filling the fresh water tank up, and then use your pump, and then push all the existing water that's still in those PEX lines out, and you'll push that fresh water that you have in the tank along with that bleach solution, and then let that sit there. And what you have sitting in those PEX lines now is what's called free chlorine. And I'm a DEQ guy here for our local housing area. We have 28 homes here with 2 big 40 horsepower pumps, our own well system, and so I do all the water sampling and testing, and so I know what it takes to properly sanitize something and what'll get the job done. And the way I've just shown you how to do it is one of many ways. It's the most affordable way and the easiest way with the least hassle, and anybody can do it yourself on this one. There you go. That's it from the Alpine guy. It's we're getting closer to heading out of here next week, and wife's got the refrigerator packed up, and even with it being almost 90 degrees and she had the refrigerator open quite a bit putting stuff in, we're at 37 degrees on this old RM 1350 refrigerator, so we're very happy the fridge is still working good for us. There you go, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope maybe it helped somebody out if they had some fuzzy spots on how to sanitize a water system. Take care. We'll catch y'all later. And while we're sitting out here in the front cooling down after putting the bleach and stuff in the Alpine, this is the original OEM bathroom faucet that came in the Alpine, and we've taken the 2 screws off the underside of it so that you can see how this assembly is put together. And if you look down here, we'll zoom in a little bit, you'll see that there's a junction right there, connection, and then right there is a connection, and you can probably see 2 dark spots in that white plastic, and 2 dark spots right there. There's 2 O-rings inside of there. This thing is all plastic, and so is the cartridge assembly, which I haven't taken the top piece off to show you. But you know, this is what comes in your OEM fifth wheel. Now maybe the brand new fifth wheels, the Alpines that are coming out, maybe they're finally putting some nice residential quality fixtures in it. But if they're not, and you have these cheap ones, they will give you problems. I replaced the kitchen sink one in our Alpine in 2015 over in Iowa when it leaked, and luckily we were in a place called Onawa, Iowa, and the closest Home Depot was 100 miles away, but luckily the local hardware store in town had some caps that fit the fixtures, and so we put caps on the lines, and that allowed us to still have water to the rest of the fifth wheel until we could replace it. But anyways, this gives you kind of an idea of the standard RV style inexpensive fixtures that you'll find in your Alpine most likely. And before somebody asks me, why didn't you just take the faucet apart and replace the bad cartridge? Well, you know, for what little it costs to get a new bathroom fixture, why not just go buy a new bathroom faucet instead of trying to fix this piece of junk? So that's what we did. And we'll take this thing apart and see if we can figure out what was wrong with it. And we're just about ready to take this silly thing apart, so we'll take the end piece off of here, and now we can lift the chrome piece off, hopefully. And now we can get to this is the actual faucet, and you can see it's identified with the red side's hot, blue is cold. And so there you have the faucet taken apart. You can see there's an O-ring for the spout. That's what sticks out into the sink. And there's a double set of O-rings here and a double set of O-rings there. And then you've still got the cartridge assembly up here, which actually you can order and change this, and you can see that it has an O-ring on it as well. And if you want to chase all that around for a leaking bathroom fixture, have fun. I just think it's easier to go get a new bathroom fixture and replace it and be done with it. And anyways, thought you'd like to see one taken apart and what's inside of it, and that way you'll know what you probably got in your Alpine.